Life is just getting in the way. Your responsibilities are piling up without realizing. The one thing that used to help you grow is no longer the thing that you can enjoy. You feel like you just have no balance anymore. You feel drained and tired all the time. And a few months pass and you barely even recognize yourself. Normal days start to look the same. You just wake up at the usual time whenever. You miss your lectures, you make a coffee, then you reach for a Red Bull by lunch. You go to the library exhausted. You study for about half an hour before you feel tired. And then you just sit there slouched, eating sugar and chocolate. I felt tired all the time. I felt drained. I felt like my brain was just always off. I was busy all day, but deep down I knew I was working towards nothing. And what I was most ashamed of was actually just admitting that I was struggling. Ashamed that I couldn't get the same out of me as I did before. Ashamed that I couldn't get the same grades as I did before. I was ashamed that I actually just wasn't enjoying myself and my course. I thought that if I told people, that it would make me undeserving of where I was. I'm at an established university surrounded by people who seemed to be doing well, so it seemed like there was no reason for me to actually complain. There was no reason for me to actually seem like I wasn't as well. I convinced myself that the pain was normal and that this was just something to be endured. For a season of my life, I had to stop focusing so much on performance altogether and just begin focusing on my purpose and my mental health. And it was weird, like putting my drive and ambition in the back seat felt a bit uncomfortable. It actually just felt wrong at the time, but I knew that it was right altogether. Began focusing on my purpose and my mental health instead. Coming from my first year in uni, all the way from Botswana like to the UK, there were only a handful of other Botswana there. I had no friend group, I had no community, no immediate family. It felt like it was just me. And all I had to me was that mission to perform. Looking back now, I actually realized how naive and dumb I actually was. I felt as if academic excellence and excellence overall was everything, and everything else could wait. What I didn't realize is that when I got there, the main thing had to shift. It was no longer just grades, it became balance, it became self acceptance. It was making sure I was eating properly, living properly, and being disciplined with my own well being. And these were things, honestly, I just never had to manage before. And I deeply struggled at that time. There were moments where I couldn't even recognize the man that was in the mirror, and it felt like I was just deteriorating inside. Like weeks would pass, and I couldn't understand why I was able to study. It felt like there was just no point. I told myself that this was normal, that this was just part of that uni life. Like everyone doesn't know what they're doing. But the problem with that mindset is that after so long, with the only mission being to perform, I never realized how blessed I actually was. I was blessed with the ability to focus on my academics, and because of that, I was excellent at it. I was able to neglect other responsibilities and only focus on that one thing. And it took losing that structure for me to actually see it. I actually deeply sympathize and respect the people who had to carry multiple responsibilities from such a young age, but didn't make it as far as the people who were allowed to actually just focus on that one thing. And the most difficult thing for them is that they see themselves as a failure. Like their reasons are just excuses. But now I see that they were playing the same game with one hand tied behind their back, but were still expected to get the same result. And this isn't to say that there aren't people who are able to achieve greater than or the same result with the less. They are. But what I'm saying is that for those people that genuinely worked and felt like they couldn't achieve, I'm here to say that you genuinely worked hard. And just because you didn't achieve that outward result at a young age doesn't mean that you're a failure. It's okay. The cards that you were given at the time were just so much harder, and you couldn't win that round. But with that experience you now have, you're far more equipped to do more in this life. And if you're like me, someone who was blessed from such a young age with support around you, then this is the moment to be grateful, to take the time to actually acknowledge those who carried you, and those who helped you to keep going and bring you to this place where you are. I think it's naive to judge people who didn't achieve top grades without recognizing how many things that have to go right for you to actually get there in the first place. For grades to be the only thing that you can focus on. So what are we supposed to do when we're expected to perform in challenging circumstances? There's two options. We can either neglect our mental and physical health, isolate ourselves, and just follow that narrow path without looking, grind, keep our head down, and see how far we can go. And by the time you stop to actually just breathe and lift your head up, you don't even recognize where you are or who you are. And when that happens, it's just so much easier to dive back into that narrow path again and face the uncertainty around you. Or we can try something new and redefine success for ourselves in the season. For a while, success isn't just getting 100% in the exam, it's now stability. It becomes looking after yourself properly, making sure your chores are done, making sure your space is clean, taking care of your physical and mental health, and putting them in order. Because if you don't, when you feel overwhelmed, you're going to start making conveniences out of necessities. You start buying more coffees and energy drinks because it's the only way that you can cope. You spend more time on your phone later at night because you feel like that's the only time you have to yourself. You eat more processed food because it saves you time, even though it leaves you feeling sluggish and unfocused. You don't realize that you're looking for external solutions from internal problems. But that's what makes it almost feel impossible. I reached a point where nothing was just working anymore, and I had to give. All I could do was just finally listen to myself and start taking responsibility for building my life back up properly. I had to redefine who I was. I found my identity in Jesus Christ, but that didn't happen overnight. I had to rebuild my relationship with Him and find myself there. I also had to let go of the identity behind my habits, whether good or bad. I was no longer defined by the stuff I did. I stopped measuring myself by my grades and outcomes, and instead, whether I smiled that day, whether I spoke to someone I cared about, whether I spent time reflecting and praying, or whether my room was clean and my bed was made. And slowly things began to change. I started attending all my lectures. I set a clear time and boundary for me to do work. I started sleeping more and going out less, playing my brain frog through the structure. And I made sure that I started every morning with reading and prayer. And people don't realize that these things take months. It took a while for my mental stability to come back. It took a while for my clarity to come back. It took months for the brain fog to disappear. And only recently have I been actually able to prioritize performance and focus. You have to understand that performance isn't just about the outcomes. It's about how you get there. It's about how you are in that moment and whether it's worth it for you. And your performance can only matter when your foundations are in order. If you're in a season right now where you just feel like everything is heavy, where you feel tired all the time and you're just struggling, I want you to put your performance to the side and think about what actually matters to you. Because you can't perform if your foundations are in order right now. You can find that clarity with time.